was climbing a tree, and that one of the high gods knocked him down from the tree and killed him, then cut off his fingers and toes and planted them in various parts of the forest. When his wife was looking for this lost pygmy, a voice told her to eat of a certain bush, and she would see her husband again. That was the bush that had grown from his parts that had been buried in the forest. And when she ate of the bush, she met her husband. And this is now the center of a religious system in Central Africa. It's called the Bwiti religion, where tens of thousands of people consume ibogaine in order specifically to contact and meet their own ancestors and to learn vital information from them, to enter the spirit realm into which they believe our soul's journey after death, and to gain regular access to that spirit realm. And I myself have consumed ibogaine. It is a very powerful, a very terrifying experience. It's physically very demanding. I was desperately ill for 48 hours during this experience.
But and that's still under the tutelage of a shaman.
In that case, it was under the tutelage of a healer working here in Britain. Although ibogaine is totally illegal in the United States, by some miracle, it remains legal in Britain. And just as I mentioned that ayahuasca has been used successfully to get drug addicts off hard drugs like heroin and cocaine, so also ibogaine has been used to the same effect here in Britain. And we have a number of healers who are administering it to drug addicts. Now, I'm not a drug addict, and I've never touched heroin or cocaine in my life, and I never intend to do so. But fortunately, some of these healers are also prepared to administer ibogaine for the purposes of consciousness exploration. And it was under that idea that I took ibogaine. And I also had a medical doctor present with me while I took it, because there have been deaths from the consumption of ibogaine. Ibogaine, if you have a weak liver or a weak heart, ibogaine can kill you. And for that reason, I had a doctor present with me throughout the entire 48-hour session.
Were you scared?
I was very scared. I was very scared by what it did to me physically. I felt like my body had been broken and torn apart.
Would you ever take it again?
I would, but I would do so with some fear and caution. The experience itself was so interesting and so instructive. I learned a great deal about myself. I did encounter ghosts. I had the sense of a crowd of ghosts standing around the couch on which I was lying during this experience, and one amongst them seemed to be the ghost of my father, who had recently died, and who I miss terribly and desperately. He didn't actually come to communicate with me in that vision, but I sensed his presence there, and I sensed that some important transaction had passed between us, which made it better somehow, made the fact of his loss, made it easier for me to deal with the fact of his loss.
Are they aware, Graham, that you have entered that altered state as much as you're aware of their presence? Are they aware of yours?
Absolutely. This is universally reported not only in my own experience but by many others who have taken these shamanic plants, that the beings and the ancestors and the ghosts and spirits that we encounter in that other realm are indeed aware of us. They can see us all the time, but in normal consciousness, we can't see them. We have to find the ways to put our consciousness onto the plane that they are on, and then we become aware of them as well. But they're already there. They're already waiting for us. The same thing was reported by Rick Strassman's volunteers on DMT, that the beings they encountered knew they were coming, welcomed the fact that they had discovered this technology, as one of the beings described it, that they discovered this technology which would enable them to communicate more and more freely in the future. And when the DMT trip came to an end and the person's consciousness went back into this world, those beings pretty much said, bye-bye. See you again soon.
I'll be talking with Ed and Chris Sherwood tomorrow about crop circles. People don't understand how they are created. This could be another way. This could be a way of communication through this altered state portal.
Yes, I think that crop circles are intimately connected to this problem. It's not an accident, by the way, that the supernatural beings that everybody in Europe related to back in the Middle Ages, the so-called fairies and elves, danced in circles, often in the grass, and left circular marks in the grass after the fairy dance had been seen.
Leprechauns as well?
Leprechauns as well, yes. They're all part of this. They're all part of this other world, and it may be the case that these crop circles themselves mark the position of portals on this earth through which we can pass into the other world. This idea has not yet been properly explored. One thing I am certain of is that crop circles are a gigantic and extraordinary mystery.
Stay with us, Graham. We're going to open up the phone lines now. We'll give you an opportunity to talk with legendary Graham Hancock right here on Coast to Coast AM. Okay, it's phone time. So we'll be back in a moment. We'll take your questions with our guest, Graham Hancock, who's live in London, right here on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie with our guest, Graham Hancock. Graham, the research that you put into the book Supernatural, based on your other works, as you talk about you want to evolve, do things differently, was this pretty dramatic for you, a pretty dramatic change?
It was a very dramatic change. Of course, there are elements in common with my previous books. I am looking into a great mystery of the human past. It's just that it's much further back than the issue of a lost civilization. But as I got deeper and deeper into this investigation, I found that it did have a truly dramatic effect on me and on the way that I look at reality and on my approach towards the mystery of life. I'd always felt anyway that life is an extraordinary mystery, but the experiences that I have been through researching Supernatural and the information that I have gathered has convinced me that is the case. Our lives are deeply mysterious, and we only understand a tiny fraction of what is going on. The tools are available for us to understand more, but for some reason in Western society we've turned our backs completely on such techniques, and those are the techniques that are used by shamans all over the world and that have been used by shamans for tens of thousands of years.
Do you know of or have ever heard of anything happening to a shaman in one of these altered states?
Yes. Sometimes bad things can happen to shamans, and that would happen if they encounter and get into a conflict with a negative or evil spiritual being.
Almost like an exorcism, isn't it?
Almost. Well, in some ways it's different, because in the case of an exorcism, you have an individual in this world who is possessed by a spirit from the other world. In the case of shamans, they are sending their spirit from this world into the other world, so the balance of power changes. The shaman is much more in control of the situation. The shaman is not possessed. In fact, he is very often in a position to give orders to spirits and to instruct the spirits as to what to do. But sometimes it can go wrong, and there have been disastrous effects. And as a matter of fact, during one shamanic initiation that I witnessed in South Africa, I saw a healthy man in his mid-40s die.
Oh, my God.
And that happened, they said, because the spirits had taken his soul. He just dropped dead on the spot.
To the phones we go. Let's go to our wild card line. You are on the air with us. Hello there.
Good evening.
Hi.
George, Graham, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
George, real quick, in the movie Contact, if you replace the huge falling apparatus that Jodie Foster sat in with her taking a hit of DMT, the movie makes more sense.
True. You're absolutely right.
And, George, next time Major Ed Dames claims that he's looking for a repeatable target to remote view the alien, ask Ed to remote view the DMT molecule. Mr. Graham, I've got all your books. I love your work. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you if you've heard of Terence McKenna's video, Alien Dreamtime.
Yes, and of course I've heard and know a great deal about Terence McKenna, and the late, great, wonderful Terence McKenna. That man was a gift to this planet, and sadly he was taken from us prematurely by a brain tumor.
Sure.
Terence McKenna did extraordinary work, and I do report on his work in Supernatural.
If tryptamines caused our imagination to create all the unnecessary accessories we're surrounded by, from high heels to religious garbs and ceremonies, If religion at its core is an expression of human imagination, it seems religion has been co-opted by a salesman who's not comfortable with his own imagination